Taylor Swift was invited to one of the most watched liberal talk shows in America, where she was set to talk about her music, her upcoming album, and her journey in the industry. But what was meant to be a friendly discussion about her career quickly turned into something unexpected. The show's host, a confident female journalist with a reputation for challenging big names, saw Taylor as an easy target. She was ready to criticize Taylor's career, music, and public persona, expecting to expose her as outdated. The audience was ready for the usual show. Taylor Swift, a superstar known for her music and immense popularity, had always been in the spotlight. But tonight, the expectations were different. The audience expected to see Taylor, the successful pop star, get called out for being out of touch with the modern progressive movement. This was a talk show known for challenging celebrities who had been seen as relics of a past era. They were prepared for a moment where Taylor would be questioned about her relevance, her past music, and whether she was adapting to the times. The journalist sitting across from Taylor started with a smile and some warm-up questions. She began by discussing Taylor's long career, the evolution of her music, and how she had grown from country music's sweetheart to a global pop sensation. It seemed friendly enough at first, but then the tone shifted. The journalist, knowing that this moment could make headlines, slowly began to target Taylor's career. She asked, "You've built an empire with your music, but some critics say that your style is a bit behind the times. Do you think your music still resonates with the younger generation, or do you feel like you're stuck in the past?" The question hung in the air, calculated and sharp. Taylor's fans were used to seeing her stand strong in interviews, but this was different. The journalist's voice carried a sense of superiority, as if waiting for Taylor to stumble. But Taylor didn't flinch. She sat up straighter in her chair, unbothered by the challenge. Instead of being rattled, she remained calm, collected, and thoughtful in her response. "I don't believe music has an expiration date," Taylor said, her voice steady. "I've always written songs that reflect who I am at the time, and as I grow, so does my music. I don't follow trends, I create them. The message in my songs is about authenticity, and I think that will always be relevant." The room was quiet for a moment. The audience seemed unsure how to respond. Some nodded in agreement, others waited for the journalist to push back. But the tension was palpable. Taylor continued, "Music is an evolving art form. We all have the right to adapt to the times, but that doesn't mean we have to change who we are or what we stand for." The journalist tried to press on, asking whether Taylor felt that her success was because of the older values she portrayed. "So you think your audience is mostly people who still believe in traditional ideas of success and femininity? Or do you think your music connects with a modern, progressive audience?" Taylor's eyes remained locked on the journalist. "I think my music connects with people who value vulnerability, honesty, and the ability to grow. No matter the generation, those things will always resonate," she replied, her voice never wavering. The audience's energy shifted. They were watching not just a celebrity interview, but a battle of ideologies. The journalist had expected Taylor to crumble under pressure, but instead, Taylor's calm confidence was taking center stage. It was clear to everyone in the room that Taylor wasn't going to be a passive participant in this conversation. Instead, she was challenging the very assumptions the journalist had hoped would bring her down. The journalist, sensing her approach wasn't working, attempted to take the conversation to a more personal place, questioning Taylor's public persona and whether she felt she represented the kind of femininity modern society now celebrates. "Your songs have often focused on love, heartbreak, and relationships," she began. "But do you think that's still an empowering message for young women in today's world, where we're talking more about independence and self-love? Again, Taylor didn't hesitate. Self-love and independence are incredibly important, and I've always written about personal growth. I've grown through my relationships, and I've learned from them, but that doesn't mean they define me. If anything, my music is about understanding that we're all more than the labels placed on us, and that will always be empowering. By this point, the room was quieter, and it was clear who was in control of the narrative. The journalist had tried to push Taylor into a corner, but instead, Taylor had turned every challenge into an opportunity to affirm her values with wisdom and maturity. Taylor wasn't just responding to the questions. She was reshaping the conversation, challenging assumptions, and showing her audience that she had evolved and was still growing. The atmosphere in the studio grew tenser as the journalist shifted gears, her questions growing sharper and more confrontational. She leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "You've been accused of being a symbol of toxic femininity in the music industry," she said, her voice cutting through the air. "Many people see you as promoting outdated traditional views of what it means to be a woman. Don't you think your influence has perpetuated these harmful stereotypes about women, love, and power?" Taylor's face remained calm, but her eyes hardened slightly, the challenge clear. This was the moment the journalist had been waiting for, believing this would be the blow that took Taylor down. But Taylor wasn't intimidated. She took a deep breath and met the journalist's gaze directly. "I think it's important to talk about what femininity means in today's world," Taylor began, her voice steady but strong. "For years, society has told women what we should be: delicate, subservient, never too loud, never too ambitious. That's what you're calling traditional femininity, right?" The journalist nodded slightly, eager to hear more. "But here's the thing," Taylor continued. "Femininity isn't one size fits all. It's evolved. Women today aren't just defined by the roles society has tried to place us in. We're multifaceted, complex, and powerful in our own ways. Being a woman doesn't mean fitting into a box. It means embracing who we truly are." Taylor's words hung in the air, the weight of them settling over the room. The journalist, stunned for a moment by Taylor's response, tried to push back. "But aren't you still perpetuating the idea that women need a man to define them? That you need to be rescued or validated by love?" Taylor didn't flinch. "I don't think love makes a person weak," she said. "In fact, love can be one of the most powerful forces in the world. But that doesn't mean it's the only thing that defines a woman. We can love and still be independent. We can be strong and emotional. Being a woman is about embracing all parts of ourselves, no matter what the world tells us is acceptable." A few people in the audience began to nod, the shift in energy palpable. It was as if they too had been waiting for a clear answer. Some began to whisper, a quiet murmur of approval spreading. But not everyone was convinced. The journalist could sense this, and she pressed on, hoping to reclaim the narrative. "Maybe," the journalist said, trying to keep control of the conversation. "But don't you think you're part of a generation that's too obsessed with this idea of empowerment at the cost of true progress?" Taylor didn't back down, though, and the audience was starting to feel the weight of her words. Some were already on her side, but the tension was still thick. Would the journalist find a way to regain control, or was Taylor's message resonating louder than ever before? The journalist, sensing that she was losing control, made one final attempt to paint Taylor as someone who resisted cultural progress. "You say you embrace change, but your music and image seem stuck in the past. Aren't you just clinging to outdated values? Do you really think you're helping the next generation? Or are you simply preserving the past?" Taylor didn't hesitate. She leaned forward slightly, her tone calm but firm. My journey in this industry has been about growth and learning, not about staying in one place. I've never been afraid to evolve, and I've done that every step of the way. But evolution doesn't mean abandoning the things that shaped you. She continued, her voice growing stronger. I use my platform to empower others, not divide them. My music has always been about sharing experiences, whether it's heartbreak, joy, or personal struggle. That's something everyone can relate to, no matter where they stand politically. My job isn't to push an agenda, it's to connect with people on a human level. The room fell silent. The journalist's argument had begun to crumble under the weight of Taylor's words. The audience, who had initially leaned toward the journalist's narrative, was now reconsidering their stance. Taylor's response wasn't just a defense of her music. It was a statement of her values and how she used her platform for inclusivity, not division. The journalist, realizing she had no comeback, fell quiet. The tension in the room shifted, and the audience began to understand the core of what Taylor was saying. Change was important, but it didn't require abandoning the past or alienating others. A subtle shift occurred as murmurs of approval spread through the crowd. Taylor's calm but powerful response had turned the tide. The moment was now viral in the making, as her message of empowerment resonated with viewers both in the studio and online. The audience, now fully on Taylor's side, erupted into applause. Cheers filled the studio, and even the toughest critics in the room couldn't help but acknowledge her strength and grace. Taylor's calm but decisive comeback had shifted the entire energy in the room, and the journalist and the host had lost their grip on the conversation. Taylor had won, and the moment was undeniable. It was viral-worthy, a perfect snapshot of her poise and resilience in the face of scrutiny. As the applause continued, it was clear that the narrative had completely shifted. Taylor Swift had not only held her own, she had taken control of the conversation and turned it into a victory. In the aftermath, clips of the interview exploded across social media, with hashtags like #TaylorSwiftWins and #The Real Strength trending worldwide. Viral reactions flooded the internet, with fans and critics alike sharing their thoughts. Taylor, however, remained unbothered. She didn't need to engage in the public back and forth. She simply continued her career, unaffected by the controversy. Meanwhile, the journalist and the talk show's producers scrambled to reframe the narrative, trying to control the damage. But the public had already made up its mind. The debate raged on in the media, but one thing was clear. Taylor had shown the world that true strength doesn't require validation from others. It's about staying true to yourself and not bending to the pressure of public opinion. In the end, her comeback wasn't just viral. It was a testament to her power, resilience, and unwavering confidence.